What happens when two seemingly disparate worlds collide? When European conquerors come face to face with a centuries-old Eastern philosophy? Well, in the heart of Central Asia, something extraordinary occurred. For the first time in history, European rulers became not just observers of Eastern religions, but active participants, adopting a faith that would transform them and their empires forever. Today, we're diving into the fascinating story of how the Greeks in Central Asia became the first Europeans to convert to Buddhism. This is a tale of cultural fusion, spiritual transformation, and the rise of a unique Greco-Buddhist civilization. To understand this unusual cultural exchange, we need to first look at the historical backdrop. The story begins long before the Greeks ever set foot in Central Asia. It starts with one of history's most famous conquerors, Alexander the Great. In 334 BC, Alexander began his epic march eastward, shattering empires and crossing the known world. By the time he reached the Persian Empire, Alexander was a seasoned warrior, intent on not just conquering but also blending the cultures of the lands he ruled. In what is modern-day Afghanistan and northern India, he founded cities, spread Greek culture, and planted the seeds for the Hellenistic age in the East. One of the cities he founded in this region was Alexandria Eschate, meaning Alexandria the Furthest. This city, and others like it, were intended to serve as strongholds of Greek influence far from the Mediterranean world. But the impact of Alexander's conquests would outlast his lifetime, as his empire fractured after his death in 323 BC. As his empire split between his generals, known as the Diadochi, one of the key players in Central Asia was Seleucus I, who took control of the region. The Greeks, particularly those in the eastern satrapies of the Seleucid Empire, remained a prominent force, living side by side with the indigenous peoples of Bactria, Sogdiana, and beyond. But it wasn't long before another shift occurred, a shift that would lead to the rise of the Greco-Bactrian Kingdom. By around 250 BC, Bactria, the region roughly corresponding to modern-day Afghanistan, had become a hub of Greek power in the east. The local Greek rulers were known as the Greco-Bactrians. Initially part of the Seleucid Empire, they began to carve out their own independent kingdom under the leadership of Diodotus I, and it was from here that the Greeks would spread their influence even further into the Indian subcontinent. Bactria was a melting pot, where Greek ideas mingled with the traditions of the Persian and Indian civilizations. It was in this rich cultural environment that the first seeds of a new and unexpected spiritual journey were planted. You see, during this time, one of the most profound transformations occurred. Greek rulers in Central Asia began converting to Buddhism. The first of these rulers to embrace Buddhism was none other than King Menander I, or as he's often called in Buddhist texts, Milinda. Menander ruled over what became known as the Indo-Greek Kingdom, a realm straddling the borders of modern Afghanistan and northern India. But Menander's conversion wasn't a simple matter of adopting a new religion. It was a profound shift that had far-reaching consequences, not just for the kingdom, but for the very development of Buddhism itself. Now, how did a Greek king, raised on the gods of Olympus, come to embrace the teachings of the Buddha? The answer lies in the convergence of cultures along the Silk Road. The Silk Road wasn't just a trade route. It was a pathway for the exchange of ideas, philosophies, and religions. As Greek merchants, philosophers, and soldiers traveled through the region, they encountered the teachings of Buddhism, a faith that was flourishing in the Indian subcontinent. Buddhism, with its emphasis on compassion, nonviolence, and the impermanence of life, spoke to many who had witnessed the endless cycles of war and conquest. Menander, a warrior king himself, was deeply moved by these teachings. It is said that he met with Buddhist monks, perhaps even the great Buddhist philosopher Nagasena, and engaged in deep philosophical dialogues about the nature of existence, the soul, and the path to enlightenment. In these conversations, Menander famously asked, "Where is the soul?" A question that became a central theme in Buddhist discourse. The exchange between Greek philosophy and Buddhist thought gave birth to a unique form of Greco-Buddhism, where Greek artistic traditions fused with Buddhist iconography, creating a distinctive and powerful visual language. One of the most enduring legacies of this cultural fusion was the creation of Greco-Buddhist art. For the first time, the image of the Buddha was sculpted in human form, a tradition that would later spread across Asia. Greek artists, familiar with the human form from their own classical sculptures, began to depict the Buddha with familiar features, blending Greek artistic techniques with Buddhist iconography. The Greco-Buddhist style combined the serene features of the Buddha with elements of Greek gods, like Apollo and even Hercules. In fact, Heracles, the mighty Greek hero, was sometimes portrayed as the protector of the Buddha, a striking symbol of the merger between Greek mythology and Buddhist spirituality. The region of Gandhara, which encompassed parts of modern-day Pakistan and Afghanistan, became the heart of this Greco-Buddhist artistic revolution. Greek and Indian artisans worked side by side, producing some of the most breathtaking and influential works of art in the ancient world. But the influence of these Greek converts to Buddhism didn't stop at the borders of Gandhara. It spread east along the Silk Road, crossing into Central Asia, China, and beyond. Through this exchange, the Mahayana school of Buddhism emerged, which would go on to become the dominant form of Buddhism in East Asia. It was through these very exchanges that Buddhist teachings eventually reached China, Korea, and Japan. And at the heart of this transmission was the Greco-Buddhist legacy, the blending of Greek rationalism with Buddhist compassion. As the centuries passed, the Greco-Bactrian Kingdom eventually fell to invading nomads. Yet despite the collapse of their political power, the Greeks' cultural imprint remained deeply embedded in the region. The Kushan Empire, which rose to power in the wake of the Greco-Bactrians, continued many of their traditions, including the use of Greek script and the patronage of Buddhist art. For over a century, Greek influence would continue to shape the world of Central Asia, India, and beyond. And although the last independent Greek kingdom fell in 10 AD, the legacy of the Greek conversion to Buddhism remains a testament to the extraordinary power of cultural exchange. So, what can we learn from the story of the Greeks in Central Asia? It's a reminder that history is not just a series of conquests and wars, but also a story of how cultures, ideas, and religions mix and evolve over time. The Greeks, once conquerors, became the first Europeans to embrace Buddhism, a faith that would go on to change the course of history. Their legacy lives on, not just in coins and ruins, but in the spiritual and artistic traditions that continue to shape our world today. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe to the History and Curiosities channel and hit that notification bell so you never miss a video. Let us know in the comments what other fascinating topics you'd like us to cover. See you in the next video.